Shadows of the Past. Olivia Reed stood before the full-length mirror in the bridal suite, barely recognizing the woman who gazed back at her. Her caramel-colored hair cascaded in soft waves over her shoulders, and her hazel eyes sparkled with a confidence that had been absent for years. The ivory dress hugged her figure perfectly, its delicate lace detail representing the intricate journey that had led her to this day. "You look absolutely stunning," whispered Rachel, her maid of honor and longtime friend, who had stood by her through the darkest chapters of her life. "I never thought I'd be here again," Olivia admitted, smoothing the fabric of her gown. "After Marcus, I was convinced I'd never trust anyone enough to try again." Marcus Wilson. Even his name still carried weight, 3 years after their divorce. He had swept into her life like a hurricane when she was 25, charming, ambitious, and mesmerizing. What began as passionate love gradually morphed into something more sinister. The criticisms came subtly at first. Suggestions about her clothing, offhand comments about her career choices, gentle mockery of her dreams. "That interior design business will never work out, Liv," he would say with a patronizing smile. "It's cute that you want to try, though." By their 4th anniversary, Olivia had shrunk to a shadow of herself. Her thriving design consultancy had dwindled to a handful of clients. Her vibrant social circle had narrowed to those Marcus approved of. The final breaking point came during a dinner party at their home, when he'd laughed off her newest design project in front of their guests, calling it amateur hour, while everyone awkwardly stared at their plates. 2 weeks later, she filed for divorce. The rebuilding had been painstaking. Therapy sessions, reconnecting with old friends, re-establishing her business one client at a time. And then, unexpectedly, Benjamin Foster walked into her life. He'd hired her to design the interior of his architectural firm's new office space. Tall, with gentle brown eyes and a quiet confidence, Benjamin was everything Marcus wasn't. He listened when she spoke. He admired her vision. He never rushed her decisions or questioned her expertise. Their professional relationship blossomed into friendship and eventually, cautiously, into love. With Benjamin, Olivia learned that love didn't have to hurt, that disagreements could be resolved without cruel words. That partnership meant genuine support, not competition. A knock at the bridal suite door interrupted her thoughts. It was her father, eyes misty as he beheld his daughter. "It's time, sweetheart," he said, offering his arm. As she prepared to walk toward her future, Olivia felt the last remnants of her past falling away. Benjamin waited at the end of the aisle, not to complete her, but to compliment the woman she had fought so hard to become. "I'm ready," she said, taking a deep breath. And for the first time in years, she truly was. The uninvited guest. The wedding ceremony had been everything Olivia dreamed of. Intimate, emotional, and authentic. Benjamin's voice had wavered slightly as he recited his vows, his sincerity touching everyone present. When they were pronounced husband and wife, the small gathering of 60 guests erupted in genuine celebration. The reception was held in the garden of a restored Victorian mansion, with fairy lights strung between ancient oak trees and tables adorned with wildflowers. As twilight settled over the celebration, Olivia felt a contentment she once thought impossible. "Mrs. Foster," Benjamin whispered in her ear as they swayed to their first dance. "I still can't believe you chose me." Olivia smiled, pressing her forehead against his. "Best decision I ever made." As the dance ended and guests began making their way to the dinner tables, Rachel approached with an odd expression on her face. "Liv," she said quietly, "you should know that Marcus just walked in. With someone." Olivia felt her stomach drop. "Marcus is here?" "I didn't invite him." "I know you didn't," Rachel replied, squeezing her hand. "Want me to have security escort him out?" Before Olivia could answer, she caught sight of her ex-husband across the garden. Marcus Wilson looked much the same, impeccably dressed in an expensive suit, his dark hair styled perfectly. Beside him stood a striking woman perhaps 10 years younger than him, wearing a dress that seemed deliberately chosen to draw attention. "Who invited him?" Benjamin asked, appearing at Olivia's side, his voice calm but concerned. "No one," Olivia replied, her heart racing. "He just showed up." Marcus spotted her then, flashing that familiar charismatic smile as he guided his companion toward the newlyweds. Olivia instinctively straightened her posture, an old habit from years of his subtle criticisms about how she carried herself. "Olivia, congratulations," Marcus said, leaning in to kiss her cheek. She remained rigid as his cologne, still the same brand, brought back unwelcome memories. "You look nice." The slight pause before the compliment was vintage Marcus, just enough to plant a seed of doubt. "This is Vanessa Chen," he continued, gesturing to the woman beside him. "My girlfriend." "She's the creative director at Meridian Advertising." "Pleasure," Vanessa said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Marcus has told me so much about you." Olivia doubted that very much. "This is my husband, Benjamin Foster," she replied, emphasizing the word husband as she placed her hand on Benjamin's arm. Benjamin extended his hand politely. "Interesting that you decided to attend, considering you weren't on the guest list." Marcus laughed as if this were merely a humorous misunderstanding. "Oh, I was in town for a conference and thought I'd stop by to wish you both well." Small world, right? Besides, Olivia and I shared so much history, it seemed appropriate to witness this new chapter. The way he emphasized history made Olivia's chest tighten. Even now, he was trying to stake a claim, to remind her of his lingering presence in her life. "Well, enjoy the celebration," Benjamin said firmly. "The bar is over there, and dinner will be served shortly." As they walked away, Olivia released a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "Are you okay?" Benjamin asked gently. "I will be," she promised, squeezing his hand. "Let's not let him ruin our day." But as the evening progressed, Olivia couldn't help noticing how Marcus worked the room, charming her relatives and friends with stories and laughter. It was what he did best, becoming the center of attention, making everyone else orbit around him. Even here at her wedding, he was attempting to reclaim control. The cutting toast. The reception dinner progressed beautifully despite Marcus's unwelcome presence. Fairy lights twinkled overhead as guests enjoyed the four-course meal, glasses clinking and laughter rippling across the garden. Olivia had almost managed to forget about her ex-husband until she noticed him whispering to the wedding coordinator near the small stage where the band played. "What is he doing?" she murmured to Benjamin, who followed her gaze. Before Benjamin could respond, the coordinator tapped the microphone and announced, "Ladies and gentlemen, we have a special toast from someone who's known our bride for many years. Please welcome Marcus Wilson." Olivia froze, her fork suspended halfway to her mouth. This wasn't part of the plan. Rachel shot her a concerned look from across the table while Benjamin placed a protective hand over hers. Marcus approached the microphone with the confident stride of someone accustomed to commanding attention. His smile was charming as he surveyed the crowd, pausing dramatically before speaking. "For those who don't know me, I'm Marcus Wilson. Olivia and I shared quite a journey together before she found her way to Benjamin." He raised his champagne glass. "When Olivia and I were married, she was different, more ambitious, more vibrant. A real firecracker." Olivia felt her cheeks burning as curious eyes turned toward her. This was exactly why she hadn't invited him. His ability to twist compliments into subtle daggers. "I see she's chosen a different path now," Marcus continued smoothly. "Something quieter, more predictable." He gestured toward Benjamin. "And there's value in that too, isn't there? Not everyone is cut out for the intensity of certain relationships." Murmurs rippled through the guests. Marcus was expertly walking the line, saying nothing, explicitly offensive while painting. Olivia's new marriage as a retreat rather than a step forward. "I remember when Olivia used to talk about opening her own design studio in Manhattan. Big dreams, big plans. But sometimes we realize our limitations and adjust accordingly." His gaze fixed directly on Olivia. "Sometimes the safe harbor is more appealing than the open sea." "And that's perfectly fine." The room had grown uncomfortably quiet. Olivia felt the old, familiar sensation of being slowly diminished, her accomplishments and choices reduced to failures in his telling. "So here's to Olivia and Benjamin," Marcus concluded, raising his glass higher. "May you find the contentment that comes with accepting where you belong in life." The applause was scattered and uncertain. Vanessa smirked from their table, clearly enjoying the spectacle. Olivia stared at her plate, fighting the urge to disappear as she had so many times during their marriage. Benjamin squeezed her hand and whispered, "Do you want me to say something?" Olivia hesitated. Part of her wanted to let it go, to not create more drama. But another part, the stronger self she'd worked so hard to reclaim, knew that Marcus's words couldn't go unchallenged. Not here. Not on this day that symbolized everything she'd overcome. She met Benjamin's eyes and nodded. "Yes," she whispered back. "Please." As Marcus returned to his seat, looking thoroughly pleased with himself, Benjamin stood and approached the microphone. The room fell silent in anticipation, all eyes now on the groom who rarely sought the spotlight, but now moved with quiet determination toward the stage. Benjamin's response. Benjamin adjusted the microphone, his normally calm demeanor underscored by a quiet intensity that Olivia had rarely seen. He cleared his throat and scanned the room, making brief eye contact with several guests before his gaze settled on Marcus. "Thank you all for being here to celebrate with us today," he began, his voice steady and warm. "And thank you, Marcus, for that illuminating perspective." A ripple of nervous laughter moved through the crowd as Benjamin continued. "I'd like to clarify a few things about the woman I married today." He turned to look at Olivia, his expression softening. "When I first met Olivia Reed, she wasn't looking for someone to complete her story. She was already writing her own." Benjamin shifted his weight, his fingers lightly drumming on the podium. "What struck me about Olivia wasn't her limitations, but her resilience. By the time our paths crossed, she had already rebuilt her design firm from the ground up, securing contracts with 3 major hotel chains and winning the Westridge Design Innovation Award." Olivia felt a wave of emotion as she watched several guests nodding in recognition of her professional accomplishments. "Marcus mentioned dreams of a Manhattan studio," Benjamin continued. "What he failed to mention is that Olivia opened that studio last spring. It's currently designing spaces for clients in 4 countries. He paused, letting the information sink in. She didn't abandon her dreams. She simply stopped allowing others to define what those dreams should look like. Marcus's smug expression had faded, replaced by a tightness around his mouth. Vanessa was now looking between him and Olivia with newfound curiosity. "As for choosing a safe harbor over the open sea," Benjamin shook his head slightly. "Real love isn't about safety versus adventure. It's about finding someone who sails beside you through both calm and storm, someone who celebrates your strength rather than requiring your weakness." He raised his glass, his eyes finding Olivia's across the room. "The woman I married today isn't settling for predictability. She's choosing partnership. And I'm not the final chapter in her story. I'm privileged to be part of the journey." Benjamin's voice grew more passionate, though he maintained his composure. "So yes, Marcus, Olivia is different now. She's stronger, more authentic, more herself than perhaps she was ever allowed to be. And that transformation didn't happen because of me. It happened because of her." He turned fully toward Olivia now, speaking directly to her, though everyone could hear. "I didn't save you, Olivia. I just had the honor of witnessing as you saved yourself." The room erupted in spontaneous applause. Rachel wiped away tears while Olivia's parents nodded proudly. Even some of Marcus's table mates were clapping enthusiastically, much to his visible discomfort. "To my wife," Benjamin concluded, raising his glass higher. "The most courageous, brilliant, and authentic person I know. Thank you for choosing me to walk beside you." As guests stood to join the toast, Olivia felt a weight lifting. Not just the immediate tension of Marcus's presence, but something deeper that had lingered even after their divorce. In Benjamin's words, she recognized her own truth reflected back at her. Marcus and Vanessa slipped out during the standing ovation, his attempt to reclaim control thoroughly dismantled by Benjamin's quiet strength. As Benjamin returned to their table, Olivia rose to meet him, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Thank you," she whispered as he gathered her in his arms. "I only spoke the truth," he replied simply. Dancing in the light, the remainder of the reception flowed with a renewed energy after Marcus's departure. With the shadow of the past no longer looming over them, Olivia felt herself fully present in each moment, laughing with college friends, dancing with her father, watching Benjamin spin her mother across the dance floor. As midnight approached, the crowd thinned to just the closest friends and family. The band had shifted to slower songs, their melodies drifting through the garden like a gentle breeze. Olivia found herself at the edge of the dance floor, observing the scene with contented exhaustion when Benjamin appeared beside her. "May I have this dance, Mrs. Foster?" he asked, extending his hand. "You may indeed, Mr. Foster," she replied, slipping into his embrace as they moved to the center of the floor. They swayed together in comfortable silence before Olivia spoke. "You know, for someone who claims to hate public speaking, you were remarkably eloquent tonight." Benjamin smiled, the corners of his eyes crinkling. "It's easy to be eloquent when you're speaking from the heart." "What you said up there?" She paused, trying to find the right words. "It was like you articulated things about us, about me, that I've felt but couldn't express." "That's what partnership is," he replied, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "Sometimes seeing each other clearly when we can't see ourselves." Olivia rested her head against his chest, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. "When I left Marcus, I was terrified of disappearing, of becoming so small I'd eventually just fade away completely." "And now?" Benjamin asked softly. "Now I know I was never small. He just made me feel that way." She looked up at him. "With you, I've never had to dim my light." Benjamin's arms tightened around her waist. "Your light is what drew me to you in the first place. The way you talk about spaces and design like you're unlocking the soul of a building. The passion in your eyes when you describe a project. Even the way you stood up to that difficult client who wanted to bulldoze your vision, that quiet, unshakable conviction." The memory made Olivia smile. "You mean when I told the senator his taste in crown molding was aggressively mediocre?" "That's the one," Benjamin laughed. "I think I fell in love with you right then." They continued dancing as the band played their final song of the night. The fairy lights overhead mirrored the stars visible through the oak branches, creating the sensation of floating through a galaxy. When Marcus was speaking, Olivia confessed, for a moment I felt myself shrinking again. Like I was back in that place where his reality overwrote mine. And now I realized something important. She stopped dancing and placed her palms against Benjamin's cheeks. His power was never real. It was just the absence of my own. Benjamin covered her hands with his. "And that's why he showed up tonight. He sensed that you've reclaimed that power, and he needed to try to take it back." "But he couldn't," she said with quiet certainty. "No, he couldn't," Benjamin agreed, bending to kiss her softly. "Some flames can't be extinguished once they've truly ignited." As the last notes of music faded into the night, Olivia and Benjamin remained embraced on the dance floor, bathed in starlight. Around them, their loved ones watched with knowing smiles, witnessing not just the celebration of a wedding, but the triumph of a woman who had walked through darkness and emerged into her own brilliance. And in that moment, surrounded by genuine love and authentic connection, Olivia knew with absolute certainty that this was what beginning truly felt like.